Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Indie Comics Relay. I'm your host, Keith Gleason, creator of the Mighty Mascots. With me, as always, Johnny C., creator of Sartana and Surrounded by Death. What's up, dude?
What's up, man? Sorry, I was grooving to that music.
Right? I'll have to change it up next week once, because Plastic City is this weekend, so I'll have to remove that off of the intro stuff.
Yeah, I was just thinking I need to maybe recut a new trailer.
Yeah, whenever you do something, let me know and throw it my way. We'll put it right there in the beginning of the show.
Yeah,
I try to switch it out between your Surrounded by Death and Sartana one.
I was thinking about doing something with both. They're all three of my major books right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, why not?
Just a mix-up of everything, But I don't know, we'll see.
And there's so much, you just have to look for a royalty-free music soundtrack somewhere, so that we don't get, it'll get banned, and
right.
We'll get struck and all that fun stuff, But dude, it's been a crazy week with Plastic City stuff, and
I can imagine we're coming down to the wire, and I'm really looking forward to this weekend.
Oh yeah, dude, down to the wire, and then also since you called me, what was it, Sunday night? I forget when you called. You called me one night.
I just remember I was driving, and I'm like, I had so many texts to reply. I was like, I can't text and drive. I'm just going to do phone calls.
Yeah, no, it was perfect. But since I talked to you that night, I think I had five or six last minute cancellations. So the last 3 days I've been going through the waiting list in order, and then adding people to the show, and then so far it's been good. Right now, what's that?
You've been able to fill the spots?
Yes, right now I'm good. So as long as no one drops off in the next couple of days, I still have a wait list that's 20 or 30 people deep, dude.
That's
crazy.
The quality of Plastic City Comic-Con, though. It shows, right?
It's true, man. We get all kinds of, and people are just still I bet the next 2 days I'll still get messages saying, "Hey, you got a table?" It's gonna happen, But that's great. Like you said, it's one of those things. And then on top of that, Dave Lucarelli, who does Tinseltown,
coming from across the country.
Yep, and he's staying with me.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. Well, he's flying in to Friday night. His plane gets into Boston at 8:30.
Okay.
And I was supposed to drive there to get him, but I'm gonna be at the venue all day until 8 o'clock, and I'm I don't really feel like driving an hour to Boston after that. So I ended up getting him one of those nights, they're called a shuttle bus.
Oh, so yeah.
They're gonna pick him up and bring him to my house. But dude, nice. He's cutting it so close. He's coming in Friday night at 8:30, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna do the show Saturday, and then he's flying back Sunday morning at 10:40 is his flight.
Wow.
It's he's gonna be here for 3 seconds and gone.
That's how I felt when I was doing my West Coast signing. It was
it's crazy.
One day here, one day in there, and then back home.
Yeah, and I think how they get you with those Sunday flights. He was I don't think he was prepared for how much those were. So I think that's why he wanted a place to crash, so he wouldn't have that hotel expense. And I said, yeah, definitely come stay with us. So
well, especially this year too. So for perspective, normally when I go to San Diego, I book in advance, so I always really try to bargain shop.
Yeah.
But even doing that, normally I'd spend $330, $340 for a round trip ticket.
Yeah.
This year I spent $680 for a round trip ticket to California.
That's crazy.
So that's perspective for you.
Yeah, that's crazy. While we're talking about it, I figured I'd bring it up. We added the floor map today or this week. And,
nice.
You got this in your mail, right, Johnny?
I sure did. Yep.
I had to do some rearranging, so I had to move you last minute.
Yeah.
But you're in a good spot. I'm in an alternate row, as I'd like to say. Yeah, you're right here. I don't know if you can see it. You're right here. It's across from Ian Chase Nichols and Joe Schmalke.
So Joe's a great creator.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's awesome. So I had like I said, I had to rearrange a few things, and I knew I could move you around because I knew you wouldn't care as long as you were in a
No,
good
I don't
spot.
mind,
So
dude. Whatever, is the least problematic I can be for you, the happier we all are.
I appreciate that, man. But look at this list. Like, isn't this insane? How many people are coming to the show? I counted
Wild.
We're up to 175 tables now. It's
Wow.
nuts.
Can
Isn't
you
that
imagine
crazy?
that? To think that, you have such a low entry cost,
Yeah.
right? And all these tables that you can shop from and meet new creators. And, you've got some, big names there. I mean, if you're a wrestling fan like I am, Justin Credible is going to be there.
Yeah.
Will Murray, creator of Squirrel Girl. The Joe St. Pierre, the star
Yeah.
of ICR Bits.
Yeah. Paul Pelletier, which is huge. And
Yep.
like you said, Will Murray, the creator of Squirrel Girl. But I'm more excited. He was the guy that did the Destroyer Remo William comics for Marvel years ago.
Right. And he writes pulp novels.
Yes.
And he wrote a King Kong versus Tarzan book.
That's pretty cool.
I highly recommend it.
Did you read it? Like, I mean, how does Tarzan even have a chance? Like that.
He took a deleted scene from King Kong and worked Tarzan into it, and it fits perfectly. Like, you could watch both movies and read his book, and everything coalesces.
Oh, really? That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
you got Alex Cormack coming from Crossing, and
then the big Alterna assembly, which is going to be great.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be an awesome show.
I just found out today too, which is kind of neat. Our buddy Julius Freeman, who hasn't been on the show in a while, that did Ghetto Dragon. He's got a new book coming out. I'm blanking on the name of it, but his artist is doing Plastic City, and it's his first show ever. So he's gonna have some preview copies of Julius's new book. And I was like, yeah, I'll have to go over there and snag one.
I absolutely need a copy. Like, I even said at the last episode, like, I feel like Julius wrote Ghetto Dragon, like, for me specifically.
Yeah, right.
So I'm excited to see what his next book is.
Yeah, definitely. Same here. And then, of course, I want to mention this. Mighty Mascots 789 is coming up. I may have to delay the launch of this. I was originally looking to go the week after Plastic City, but I don't have all the covers completed yet. And after talking with Pete, it's like, why should I rush this? I should have everything complete, so when people look at it, they have that confidence to, back the project. So I may end up holding this off for a couple weeks before I launch it. So
Keith, I highly recommend it. And the reason why I say that is that one of my biggest regrets from my first campaign was promising new unproduced content at the top of the campaign. Because now, almost a year out, actually, yesterday, a year ago, is when I launched.
Okay.
And I'm still partially unfulfilled with my campaign. There's 2 tiers with maybe 12 books, 12 pledges that I need to fulfill still. And that's all because I promised
you pre-promised it,
and I underestimated how long it would actually take.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. So I feel like, so the thing I'm really waiting for is one of the variant covers, and Pete wants to go in and like add all the the corner boxes, the logo onto the covers and everything. So once all that's done, we'll put it in the campaign and it will launch right after that. So I'm thinking like maybe the last week in July or the first week in August might be the new date. We'll see. We'll see how things go.
The other recommendation I would give, Keith, is go mid-month.
Mid-month? Okay.
Mid-month, because then you're not competing with rent.
Oh, that's a great idea. I didn't even think about that.
You know what I mean? So, like, anybody would have to pay rent.
Yeah.
It would be better off to launch mid-month and end mid-month. So that way there's finances available. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I ever think that's the stuff I never think about. So yeah, that's good. That's good, man. I'll definitely
that's what
take
I'm here
that.
For, Keith.
Yeah, right. So before we bring tonight's guest in, who's I've been friends with Tom for a long time, so it's kind of cool to actually have him on and
I'm very excited to find out a little bit more about Tom as a creator. And I was just perusing his social, and he's got an affinity for giant robots, kind of like I do a little bit.
Yeah.
Mine's not as I'm probably not as well versed as he is, but I just love giant robots anyway. So
yeah, no, and
really cool
Tom takes giant robot collecting to the next level. And we'll get into that a little bit, which is amazing.
Love that.
Yeah. You're going to love that collector mentality, like where you just got to have something, Before we bring him in, though, let's just take a quick look at the chat. Say hi to everybody. We got Roland with us tonight. What's up, Roland? Good to see you, buddy. Got my wife in the chat. What's up, Amy? Harry. 249 for a Ewan McGregor. I don't know what he means by that.
That's probably like what is Fan Expo.
Yes, that's right. Isn't he? He's going to be at Fan Expo Boston, right?
Probably. Isn't that like triple what he was last time now because of Obi-Wan?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if
good Lord.
249. That's crazy. I mean,
I remember Stallone was asking for 600 at New York Comic-Con.
That's
a while back,
and both guys working. It's nuts that they. But I guess you got to get them there, right? I mean, it's part of part of their thing. Roland said, "I am gonna get to Plastic City Comic Con or die trying." Awesome, dude. Well, definitely come by and say hi, and Johnny, you'll be right near us near the Alterna section. I'll be.
I was gonna say, Keith, are you gonna have a table? Or?
No, but my base of operations will be the Alterna section, but because I'm running the show, it's just too hard, Johnny.
I'll just take Post-it notes for you. If people come by looking for you, I'll just take a message.
that works. Oh, man. Wiley Draws is in the house. Vecna Army in the house. Nice. Stranger Things fan. Tim Jones says, hey, guys, see you soon.
One of the most famous Tims I know.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then Joe Medeiros from Rubber Chicken. See you guys in 2 days. Woo, Dogfish. Nice. Let me see. You can always, let me see. Amy said you can always make an amateur soundtrack in GarageBand. Roland said Kevin McLeod is basically the soundtrack of YouTube. Oh, that must be the guy for the music for the Plastic City commercial.
Oh, yeah.
Wiley Draw says if you dig spaghetti western music, check out Quicksilver Messenger Service Happy Trails album. It's live and 90% of the album is one long jam with parts that are very spaghetti western sounding.
Oh, cool. Well, if that doesn't hit me with a copyright infringement flag,
right. That's the thing. That's the thing you got to do. You got to watch for that.
My old music for that trailer was actually Jack White. The intro to his song.
The algorithms are so good now. They catch that stuff right away. You can't even sneak it in now.
I was chatting with AI on a website, and it was making my skin crawl. How
in depth it is.
Oh, I felt like I was speaking to a person. That's how
that's crazy.
Spooky it is. Yeah.
And my buddy Al from Infinity Comics is here. What's up? How's it going, buddy? Good to see you. I think that's it. Indie Revolution. I thought Steve Ditko created Squirrel Girl. I think he was the artist, but Will Murray was the writer on that, right? Did I
believe
that right,
so.
Johnny?
I believe so.
Great for Julius. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Julius is great, man.
Can't wait to read Julius.
Better a little longer in the oven than being undercooked. I don't know what that was.
That means about your campaign. So.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Better to be prepared than going guns blazing.
The rush is probably on me because I want to get it going.
Yeah.
Rather than but
better
you're right.
Park that anxiety, Keith.
I do. It's part of it.
No ready, shoot, aim business over here.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So without further ado, let's bring in tonight's guest, Tom. Like I said, he's a stand-up comic, and he's also a comic creator and a huge robot collector, which is awesome. So without further ado, Tom, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hey, Tom.
It's great. It's great watching the show. Since you invited me to be a guest, I have caught up. And, just for the people watching, we booked this way in advance. So there's a lot of creators out there.
We were talking about this from WickedCon, Comic-Con, what was that, back in April?
It was April, the beginning of April. And you were like, I'm looking at July, August right now. So, don't think you're not scrambling like Plastic City. You're not scrambling for guests.
Yeah, no, which is nice. And now I'm booking for end of October, which is crazy. Like, just to show you.
Wow.
And we're doubling up on guests. That's how, because me and Johnny are trying to stay like a bi-weekly schedule, which we don't always do, but we try because it's just easier on both of us because we have so much going on. But it's
testament to both, you and the empire that you've built in the show, but also just indie comics in general. It's
true, definitely. It's funny too, like, because I've known you for a while, and I didn't, I'm already starting off with the comic. Is the comic that you're doing, the Jumbo Titan X, is that your first comic you've ever done?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I know you from more like the stand-up comedy and.
Right. Did we meet at my house? Is that the first time we met? When
it could be, because John, I think John knew you first, right?
I knew Dave. Dave Keemont.
Dave,
is a fellow toy robot collector, and he knew John, and I sort of met John through him, and he wanted to do a podcast at my house that my mom was selling, and I was getting rid of all my childhood comic books and toys. Yeah. One of which is right behind you.
Yeah, exactly. This 2XL behind me is actually Tom's.
My 2XL.
So that's when I met you, I think, for the first time. So I went with John. We were doing we had a podcast, Johnny, back. This was what, maybe 2010-ish?
Somewhere
maybe
in there.
2012,
maybe?
12, yeah. We had a podcast called the Swascast, and it was just me and John.
I remember you talking about that, yeah.
Yeah, and what we would do is, it wouldn't be like an interview per se. It would be more like we have a guest on, and then we would do like a top 3 list,
Right.
And I think with Tom, we did a couple. We had like
it was top 3. It
was like
comic book continuations, like.
Cliffhangers, comic book cliffhangers. That's right. Yeah. And then we did one about giant robots, right? I think. I don't remember exactly.
I just remember the comic book one. I remember doing the molecule, when Reed Richards becomes the Molecule Man.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like that being a 2-part, like, whoa, what's
yeah.
The wand. And then I did a Godzilla issue, I think.
Yeah.
With Red Ronin's head gets chopped off. And maybe another Fantastic Four, maybe the Overmind.
Yeah. So, well, and then what happened was you were getting rid of all this stuff, and I saw the 2XL there, and you were like, "Oh, it doesn't work. You want it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it." And then I ended up finding a guy online that could repair them, so I sent it off. He repaired it. Now it works. I'll pull it down sometime, and we'll quiz Johnny on the superhero stuff and see if we can get the 2XL questions.
I did have a bunch of tapes.
Yeah, no, you gave me all those too. You gave me all the
amazing,
tapes.
like, just the idea of trivia isn't really a thing anymore because of the internet. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, remember in the 80s, like when Trivial Pursuit came out? It was a big deal. Before the internet, everyone really cared about trivia, and 2XL was definitely part of that. But now with Google, like, who cares about knowing stuff?
Yeah, right.
I think our brains were all a little bit sharper then, too. We had to remember shit, right?
Right. Well, I forget who was saying it, but it was like, we have so much smarts at our fingertips, but we've never been a more dumber society, which is,
Well, it's the calculator method, right? When you had a calculator doing math tests.
Yeah, exactly. So Tom, we usually start our show off when we have a guest on. We love to learn the origin, like how people kind of got on the path of being a creator. And do you have anything? I know I'm going to guess that it's going to be something robot related, but you know?
Right. Well, yeah, because there's a bunch of different things. You know, I'm all over the place. Like I have a certain group of friends from one passionate sphere of interest, and a certain group of friends from another passionate sphere of interest, and there's not a lot of overlap there. You know, I try and my comic is sort of an amalgamation of a lot of those different interests, but I loved robots and anime when I was very young, and I should say I'm from Massachusetts originally, and going to Waltham, to Mr. Big Toy Land, and Outer Limits was a big deal for me. And I was a member of the Boston Japanimation Society, which we meet at MIT and then UMass Boston, and it's so different now with just how huge anime is. Like,
yeah, like back then you were starving for it because you couldn't get it.
I would take, my mom would drive me to the T, and I would take the T to either MIT when it was at MIT or UMass Boston later, and get there and then meet with a bunch of other people, and all Saturday, once a month, we would watch like 5th generation VHS bootleg tapes of things we'd never seen before with no dubbing and no subtitles.
I've seen a few like that. Yeah.
So when you say like, hey, I used to walk uphill both ways to watch anime, that was
it.
Yeah.
So to get to my origin, I guess I went to college at the University of Michigan, and I was an art major there. And I did, enjoy the art school there. And it's sort of a struggle for people who are really passionate about comic books. I mean, less now than it was then, or even earlier, of like fine art curriculums tend not to, or they're concerned that they don't steer to their interests. There's a lot of criticism of art schools about they're just about personal expression and not enough about technique and fundamentals, and like, hey, I want to become a better artist, and it's not enough about that.
Right, and weren't they kind of, schools looked down on comics at that time too, like it wasn't like a thing,
Right, but you can sort of secretly nurture your talents in the way that you want to. I can't say enough even today about taking life drawing classes.
Right.
I go all the time. One of the highlights of my life is I like to go to, do you know the artist William Stout, the big dinosaur guy?
Yeah.
Poster for Wizards and Key-Man. He was the one from the 80s. He was the production designer on. He has life drawing at his studio every Sunday morning, and a bunch of comic book people go there, and it's great just to be a fly on the wall. But life drawing is it's great therapy for you. It's not just good as an artist, because as an artist or aspiring artist, a lot of times you're like, what do I want to draw? And you're just sort of staring at a blank page. When a model is in front of you, that chore of deciding what you want to draw is just gone. Like, I got to draw.
Right. Yeah. You're just going to draw this. Yeah.
As the pose is, and do my best at it. And let's say it's not that good, or you're sort of warming up. Another pose is coming up, and you get to start all over again. And even when you've been doing it a lot, there's like, you start to figure out the model more. Like, oh, I understand the way that her neck muscles are attaching to her body now. Because not everyone is built exactly the same.
Right.
To feel more comfortable, and it's just good for, drawing in person. You're using two eyes, not one eye, when you're reproducing something flat. But it's building that skill. So as a comic book artist, like, okay, I need some reference for something. Like the life drawing that you're doing is helping you draw from 2 dimensions better as well. Right. So, and it's good therapy, and the life drawing scene in Los Angeles is simply amazing. And there's a lot of, I prefer greatly to draw in person, as you say, 2 eyes versus Zoom. But there's a ton of wonderful, amazing, you get a lot out of it.
It's going to be hard to draw in Zoom, I would imagine.
Zoom life drawing, but it's a big thing now.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I would like that either, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it.
It's good, but it's not as good. I do plenty of Zoom life drawing as well. Look, with gas prices the way that they are, like not having to drive 45 minutes to a studio somewhere,
right,
being able to do it from your home and not have to put pants on, you're fine.
Yeah, right.
And there are benefits to drawing at home, and it is like a lot of. I just actually finished taking a mech design class.
Oh, really? They do a class like that?
It's an online school. Well, they started. Again, Los Angeles is an amazing place for art. It really is. And
I was gonna say that's like very what's the word I'm looking for?
Niche.
Very niche. Yeah, very niche. Like so they do they have like stuff like how to draw like like fantasy armor and things like that too?
I mean there's a couple of schools. In the history of, one of the reasons that Los Angeles is such a great place for artists is there's so many industries here. The film industry is here. There's a lot of animation is here. Even if it gets farmed out overseas, a lot of the concept and keyframe stuff is done here. And there's a ton of video game places here. So you've got sort of the history of art schools in Los Angeles. You've got Cal Arts and the one in Valencia. I'm going Art Center School of Design. So a lot of these art industries, were launched. Students were launched from there, but they were super expensive, and a lot of people were going there because the connections, the pipeline to the industry was so strong. And then other schools started popping up to sort of compete with those schools. So there's an art school called Gnomon, which is a digital art school that started up by this guy, Alex Alvarez, and I send my daughter there. That's where she goes to school. And it's all digital art there. And then Brainstorm is another one of those schools, and it's headed by James Paik and John Park.
Alex, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Tom. Alex actually had the table to the left of Amy and I at San Diego Comic-Con November edition. Yeah. So I don't know if you remember, Keith. Remember that kid I wanted to get to do a short with me?
Is he the one that was doing like his comic was like that, like a Fast and the Furious thing or something?
No. The other side, the opposite side. There was like a school.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I do remember.
That's Alex. That's that school.
Alex Alvarez's school is Gnomon. Yes, and that's in Hollywood.
Oh wow! Yep. Small world. That's awesome.
Yeah. But Brainstorm. But with COVID, they Brainstorm started offering everything online, and I just think forget art. We're just in a new era of education. You look at the college scandal from a few years ago with people, forging tests and using all this stuff. You don't need that anymore. Like, I think the value of a university is really decreasing because you can go to any school. You can go to Harvard. You can go to MIT, and you're not going to have every class is not going to be created equal. There's going to be students are going to say, yeah, I love this student and his approach to teaching this year, this term, but this other teacher and the way that he's teaching the class, not so much. Like, I researched this guy who was teaching this mech design class. I liked him. I liked to go to ArtStation, see his work, and decided I want to take the class. It was super cheap, and it is niche. It's exactly what I want, and
like that. I think any artist could get something out of that. Even if you just draw a robot once in a blue moon. Well, it's like the life drawing stuff. You don't think you need it, but it's like
you haven't lived until you've drawn rocket hands.
Yeah. But my point is, like, that's something that really doesn't decrease from it being Zoom, because you got the whole screen, and for 2 hours he's drawing and he's showing you his process, and it's utterly fascinating. But the point that I was trying to make is, he said at the beginning of the class, in the first class, he said 85% of concept art is gathering reference. And that just blew my mind. And the way that he would use reference was kind of mind-blowing to me, of like, you like, here are shapes and here are parts of things that I like. And it's really appropriate for mech design.
Okay.
And then one approach was you grab these, you use the lasso tool and select all of these parts, and then it becomes sort of like Mr. Potato Head meets a Rorschach test, where you put the parts together and you try and find happy accidents of design and shape. And that's a lot of concept art.
That's cool.
But
interesting.
Like, wow, I didn't see this part of a telescope as a gun until I flipped it over and put it next to this thing this way, but now it's perfectly, and it doesn't, part of the chore of design is variation of like, okay, I need to design 10 shields right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get to 4, but 5, 6, your brain is just like kind of run out of stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're using reference and letting other people do the work, even if it's not looking at reference of shields, that sort of lowers the work that your mind has to do of designing stuff.
And then you eventually might see a pattern that you would like, or something that would feed into the overall look of what you're going for, or kind of put you on the path to getting something that you want.
Yeah, but I mean, I like taking classes even today of all sorts of weird stuff. I think one of the greatest assets we can have as human beings is being as curious as possible. And the internet has a lot of downsides to it. I blame the internet for a lot of the ills of the world, but it gives us access to information like never before. And taking advantage of that is something that I try and force myself to appreciate.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And like, one thing I wanted to tell people about you too is like when I first met you, like you were like, are you still like a rabid robot collector?
Yes.
Nice.
I am.
If you couldn't tell from the background, Keith.
I know. No, but this is Tom and Dave and all these guys, Mason. You guys still do like the robot summits?
There is a East Coast Chogokin summit.
Okay, I gotta tell.
It is coming up. I will. I'm on the West Coast. I went to one like 2016 maybe, because I just happened to be in town for Boston Comic Con. I probably saw you earlier in that day, and then I went to one later. But those guys still get together and they still meet.
It's awesome.
And like with Japanese toy robot collecting, it's crazy right now. It's the stuff that I'm looking for is kind of dead on Yahoo Japan, and it kills me because the dollar is destroying the yen right now. It's really strong. Your dollar, people are talking about inflation right now. Yeah. Like collectible stuff in Japan, you can do great, but I'm not finding, the stuff that I'm looking for.
But like, I just want to give the audience too an idea of the level. What is the most you've paid for a robot in your collection?
Okay, there is. I mean, most people know me from this.
Okay.
There was a toy that I was looking for 13 years. I went to Japan 6 times to try and find it and failed. And then one came up for auction, and I did get it in 2006. And it cost me $15,500.
Wow! Holy!
I told you, Johnny. No joke. I mean, this is a serious collector.
Respect to the commitment, man. That's awesome.
It is worth so much more than that now. I mean, the offers that I have gotten on it are really high.
Yeah.
And
didn't you? Is that the one where you found it in some random like?
No, it was auctioned off.
Okay.
The woman who had it didn't know what it was.
That's what it was. And she had it in her store or something that was just sitting there, wasn't it?
I think no. She found it in a flea market.
Flea market, okay. But she didn't know what she had.
Yeah, and that still happens today. But the age that we live in, like, it's not. Collecting in general, are the way that humans are built is to try and think, what is the cheapest I can get this for?
Right.
We always want to find the deal. We always want to find Action Comics #1 for a quarter.
Right. That random like yard sale. Yeah.
That's the romantic collecting notion that we have in our heads, and that ain't happening anymore because people are going to put it up on eBay, and still not know what it is, but even if it's labeled poorly, like comic book with guy with blue and red costume on the front, and they don't say Superman, people are still going to find it, and it's still going to get for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Okay? So now you need the collecting strategy that you need to employ is, okay, here are the things that I'm looking for. They're not available right now. What is the most that I will pay for it? And you need to have this honest, painful dialogue with yourself and come to that agreement and be willing to stand by it. Yeah. And then when it's available, like let's say someone makes it available. Let's say your max price is, look, okay, there's this thing I want, and I'll pay $3,000 for it because I want so much. Okay. When it becomes available, you offer the person $3,000 to stop, if they're putting it up for auction, to try and shut it down. Or you make that your bid if it is an auction. You're not going to, because it's never going to be you and one person. There's always going to be people who are your competitors.
Oh yeah,
it's just too easy to open it up to a whole bunch of people. So you got to be serious about it, and that goes against human nature, but that's the right strategy in 2022.
Yeah. Well, and then I wanted to tell Johnny. So they have like these robot summits basically, and it's like, imagine if it was me, you, and then like, I don't know, like Jack Holder and maybe like 5 of our other con friends, and we just got together and had like this backyard convention where we did like trading amongst each other, like comic books. That's right. What these guys do, and they have
That's
them.
Pretty
like,
cool.
Isn't that cool? Like they have them like. Are they always in Massachusetts, Tom? Or are they?
We used to have some on the West Coast.
You have some on the West Coast.
It's fun, but it's like it's.
But I'm fascinated by it because I don't know anyone else that does stuff like that. You know.
Well, a lot of the Japanese toy collecting community began online. Like a lot of these friendships began from websites. I had a website in the 90s called Cool Japanese Toys. Alan Yen in Massachusetts, he started Toy Box DX. Josh Bernard had Collection DX. Yeah. So a lot of these people never met each other, but became tight friends. And these summits were just an excuse to actually meet in person and confirm that, these guys are as cool as they seemed online, you know, and those friendships are still solid. So it's
it's really cool. I admire it, you know, and I admire that the drive you guys have for getting these robots, and it's cool, you know. It's like as a comic collector, I can you know.
You can respect that. I can
respect it. Yeah, definitely.
Like Tom, when you're talking about setting your price and knowing your price as to what you would pay versus even what the value is. I recall doing the same when I'm a big Punisher fan. And I was hunting down Amazing Spider-Man 129. And, you know, I was like, this was the price I'd pay. And every copy seemed to have a imperfection to it. You know what I mean? So it was like I was on the continual hunt, but I'd always have that number that, like, I can't go past this number in paying for this, you know? So I totally
get one, Johnny?
What's that?
Did you get one?
I have like 7.
Oh, okay.
But they're all like imperfect. One's faded by the sun. Okay. One's got grease pencil markings on it. Like I have one good copy somewhere in my household. It's mixed in with somewhere else. So eventually I'll dust it off and maybe go get it graded.
Yeah,
is the movie Coyote Ugly about Spider-Man 129, the first appearance of Punisher?
There was a reference to that in that movie, and they glamorized it a little bit more than what it actually was. But I also think that fed into the popularity of the book. It made it a little bit more mainstream, you know?
Well, right. I mean, we're talking about collecting right now and value and comic books. And I think it would be inappropriate not to just mention the explosion in original comic art. It is insane right now. It's bigger than it's ever been. That Mike Zeck Spider-Man thing selling for $3 million is still scratching to this day.
It's crazy too that like a lot of artists nowadays work digital and they don't create that art so that they can actually sell it. You know what I mean? Like
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was gonna say I look back to New York Comic-Con special edition. I think it was 2013, maybe. I was walking through there, and Ryan Utley, who's now on Spider-Man, previously on Invincible, was selling pages from Invincible.
Okay.
Just out there at his booth. It was just, I remember getting the first appearance, and you have to forgive me, the villain that controlled the electricity in Invincible. He was selling that guy's first appearance page right there. Again, not using digital. There was a physical copy. It was the first appearance of this character, and it was just right there, all for $75.
75.
Now, if I go back, I could probably get a fortune for that. Like you said, Tom, the price only goes up over time, you know?
We're seeing this huge spike in the market. And I kind of feel like this is a good thing. I mean, I feel like there's this, it used to be like original comic art. People were more interested in older or dead artists. You know, everyone wanted their Kirby page. Everyone wanted their Ditko page. I want to try and get Frank Miller or John Byrne. Right. But now, the industry is so hot, and I got to give credit to Felix Comic Art. Felix Liu, the creator of Felix Comic Art, he used to be a toy dealer on my website, Cool Japanese Toys. So I've known him since the 90s, mostly from, toy collecting and toy dealing. But I think his first client was Nick Pitara, and he's just exploded into this giant original comic art industry, and he does an amazing job, and the artists love him. And I remember when he first started up, because you're talking about being a creator, what do you ask for people and crowdfunding campaigns? He said, like, hey, would you sign up for my newsletter? And that's such a small ask for me, like, hey, would you be on my newsletter? And his newsletter is so huge right now. And he, for his newsletter subscribers, here's this art drop, and there's this giant community which buys everything from him. And,
and it's all done through the newsletter?
He gets a ton of money for his artists, but I feel like he has really shifted a lot of these collectors who were only into getting older art into being hooked on art from new artists. And this is a good thing. We talk about the history of art and how often artists didn't see success while they were alive, and they toiled in misery and were penniless. And that's not what's happening here. And
it's good. Like it's a marketing too. Like he started off just doing that. Now look at him, I
mean, and just another like trend that we're dealing with, because so many trends get slammed. Like, hey, what's with this new thing that's ruining things? Just the idea of sketch covers. How awesome is that? Blank coat. Oh, the company isn't, paying any money for any artist. Well, there's variant covers, and people are going and paying artists directly to do artwork on a cover for a comic book. It's a real thing. It just, what a good trend. I don't collect sketch covers, but I feel it's putting good money into the whole industry.
Yeah, plus you get a comic, on top of it,
Yeah, there's a real thing to it.
So before we leave the subject of giant robots, what's your favorite ultimate property of like giant robots? Is it like Gundam, or is it like Force 5? Remember Force 5? That was the best.
Johnny, do you remember Force 5? Do you know what?
I do remember Force 5. It was regional to the New England area, and it was like Mazinger Z. It was a collection of different ones, right?
It was 5 days of the week. It was on weekday afternoons. So Monday was Vanguard Ace. Tuesday was the Star Avengers, which was really Getter Robo G in Japan. Okay. Wednesday was supposed to be Great Mazinger, but the deal sort of fell through, and they replaced it with Space Cateers, which is the original Japanese name is Star Zinger.
And then Thursday was
Grandizer.
Yeah.
And Friday was Guy King.
Guy King was my favorite, I think.
Yeah.
And
there were 26 episodes of each show, but the series ran longer in Japan. Like there's 56 episodes of Vanguard Ace and 44 episodes of Getter Robo G, but they only showed 26. So you're not seeing the whole series on Force 5. But yeah, I was a giant Force 5 fan.
And good times back then.
I was going to say, growing up in the 80s, we were really lucky because we did get a lot of those Japanese imports. It wasn't like cartoons made specifically for Western audiences. It was, redubbed for Western audiences and a lot of repackaging and repurposing.
Battle of the Planets.
You look at some of our most popular things, Transformers, they were all Japanese based,
Okay, but I want to put a pin in this Force 5 discussion right now.
Okay.
And I want to debut something on your podcast later in the podcast that is related to Force 5. Okay?
Please.
Okay. All right.
Okay. But this is something that I've been working on for a while.
Okay.
That is, I've not shown one, image of on my social media. So this is the first time that you're going to see something later in the show. So people who are watching,
great. And
stay tuned.
We're all Force 5
right
fans
here.
here.
I'm pointing to it. I'm going to show it to you later.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes.
All right. So
awesome.
I guess the next area I wanted to go to is and then we'll start talking about the comic because I definitely want to highlight that a little bit.
Yep.
So how did you kind of go from, it sounds like you studied art when you were younger. How did you kind of shift that to stand-up comedy?
Sure. When we're talking about the sort of creative growth in anything, in ourselves and any sort of, or just growth in general, I always say environment before habits, because we always talk about improving our habits.
Yeah.
But if you're in a toxic environment for anything, it makes it that much more difficult to improve your habits. You're really swimming upstream.
Yeah.
So if you can place yourself or find yourself in a good environment, that is really essential. It just gives you so many advantages. And like I'm talking now, the artistic environment in Los Angeles has so many assets to it. There's so many great people. It's really wonderful, and I like exposing myself to it. So one thing about stand-up comedy is, there's sort of controversy now. We hear about comedians who are being canceled or shut down or criticized or picketed, and at colleges, that there's a lot of First Amendment discussion about comedy at colleges, and this comedian got banned from this college. And, one side will say, we've become too sensitive. The other side will say, these are regressive hacks who are performing here who really need to get with the times and are worth our time to begin with. And both sides probably have a point. Okay. But the point that I want to make is that the best thing for stand-up comedy is full-time stand-up comedy clubs that are near college campuses. Okay. That makes all the difference in the world. And that is a big reason why Boston was such a great place for comedy. So many big comedians started off in Boston. And the reason that colleges adjacent to comedy clubs are so great is it just gives comedians permission to be smart, which sounds like bigger than I'm making it out to be. It's just because so much of stand-up comedy is you're looking at a sheet of paper and you're saying, what bits should I do tonight for this next show?
Yeah.
And you are so judgmental about those decisions. And so many times you say, I'm not going to do this bit. They're not going to get that. This is way too heady. And a lot of times you're wrong. The crowd would get it. I mean, you find yourself in some hick part of the country and you're like, these knuckleheads, these dumb flyovers, and they're friggin' great. And you just like, you got to fill the time. So you're like, okay, fine, I'll do this smarter material, or I'll just head in the direction of smartness. I'm not talking like do material about Proust or anything, but comedians shoot themselves in the foot and have a natural tendency to dumb it down because stand-up comedy is so safe and just like, okay, I got to be really basic here. And that really hurts comedic growth in a way that is really difficult to express, but I firmly believe. So in Boston, there's a great documentary in Boston stand-up comedy called When Stand-Up Stood Out. I think maybe Fran Salamita did it. And there's a lot in there. I mean, Boston has so many colleges and it has and it's so blue collar also. And there were so many comedians who were just keeping each other honest. Like Lenny Clark was really good friends with the late Barry Crimmins, who was so heady. And Catch a Rising Star was right in Harvard Square. And you had all these really blue collar comics and all these kind of intellectual people, and they just made each other better. It was really great. So when I went to the University of Michigan, there was a full-time comedy club right off campus. At the time, it was called the Main Street Comedy Showcase, and it changed. And now it's just the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase. But that place was heaven for me. And there was also, before that, comedy was a huge thing. It's comedy now. I don't think people care about it. Like a long time ago,
I get that feeling too. Like you don't hear about
I feel like
comedians as much.
It's like supermodels of the 90s. Like
I get
models like, hey, here are these beautiful women. Let's celebrate them and have them endorse everything. And then people said, you know what? We can get female celebrity who are just as hot and have Natalie Portman sell our perfume, or Julianne Moore, or people that they already know. We don't need to get Christy Turlington. So
and I feel like because the world has gotten more serious, it feels like and just even like the whole Hollywood thing, like people don't look at actors and in movies the same as they used to, even 10 years ago. I would say they're not
I feel
as
like
powerful. Go ahead, Johnny.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it's that change shows a little bit. Like I look at a venue like the Wilbur, or like the Middle East, where you'd go and you'd see like a comedic act or something like that. And now you look when you go to buy tickets, and half of them were like touring podcasts. And not stand-up comedians.
It's
different. It's changed. Yeah, there's different things that people are appealing to where you don't see. Like normally those venues would have like all bands or comedians. Now it's like touring websites and touring shows, things like that.
With stand-up comedy, look, hard shows, that are really rough are part of the game. It's not a problem, and Los Angeles, unfortunately, is not a really good environment for comedy, as crazy as that sounds, because a lot of these shows you go to, there's no one there except 100 other comedians waiting to perform.
Right. No one cares if you're alive or dead on stage.
Right. It can be really dead, and it makes you stronger. Of course it does. Of course it's good for you. But one thing that comedians need is a balanced diet of stage time. And you need some shows to be good, to be fair, to be like, oh, wow, this is a hot crowd. Because when you're doing a really rough show, it's improving your confidence. It's sort of it's improving your editing. Like, wow, I can't really ramble on here. It's really improving your segues, because a good segue artist can really never seem like they're dying, because
gives you that second skin too, right? Because if the show's going bad,
but it's not like really bad shows are not giving you an actual litmus test for your material. Is this material any good or not? And you're learning nothing. So, Michigan, when I first went to college, I'm a freshman, and there was just stage time everywhere. And I was performing all the time, and my two main places were friggin' great. And here's a funny story. Lots of comedians started at that club that I'm telling you about.
The one in Michigan?
The one in Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, the Main Street Comedy Showcase. There's a guy who went on to write for The Onion. He went on to write for Conan and Letterman. Tim Herod. He's brilliant. You can see him for a bit in The Aristocrats. But he was
I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
He's the guy who's telling the joke for The Onion, the version of The Aristocrats where he's talking about shit. And then they start shitting. Well, I think shit is kind of common, for this joke. So what he needs to do is take the shit and put it on his face and start doing blackface,
Isn't that the one where they're sketching on a board, I think?
Probably.
Like they're breaking it down,
Tim Herod, brilliant comedian, love him to death. He stand-up comedy is brutal, but he could have been as huge as anyone, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And that's sort of that's one of the tougher parts about stand-up comedy. It's not like, woe is me, why aren't I bigger? It's, wow, this other guy over here is really special, and nothing ever happened for him or her, and it can really hurt you.
Yeah. I think that's the same with everything, right? Like, even with comic creators, we're all trying to get a comic out there.
There's as we get older, there's sort of, I think wisdom is gained through experience, and the experience of success and failure.
Yeah.
And there's sort of 4 versions of that. There's our own success, our own failure, other people's success, and other people's failure. And other people's failure is where we gain the most wisdom, because it's just like, what the hell happened there? How come that person didn't take off, or that thing that I would have bet the farm on, or that marriage, they seemed like they had it all and that didn't work. And, stand-up comedy can be pretty brutal in that regard. But so I was getting tons of stage time in Michigan, but I would come home for, the holidays and summers, and I would perform at all of the Boston clubs when they were really hot. I was in the Boston Comedy Riot, and I did not win, along with Joe Rogan. He was in that with me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember Joe Rogan well. I did a lot of sets with him at the Comedy Connection, which was a great club.
Was this before Joe Rogan was anybody? Or was
before he moved out to
Joe
LA.
Rogan from Newton, Mass. Yep.
Yeah, yes. That's great.
But he
now look at him. He's doing a podcast,
yeah.
and not doing comedy.
I think
he still does, but he's more known for his podcast now,
Yeah, but I'm in company with him of not winning the Boston Comedy Riot when we did it together.
That's funny. Now, are you still doing comedy? Are you still?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard with COVID, but I still love doing it. I still feel like it's the biggest, the best art form. Like when I came to the Wicked Comic Con, I went to New York first, and I did a set at Stand Up New York, which is a great club. So the whole month before that, I'm like, okay, let's let me do a set. They put me on Saturday night, second show, which is perfect. Yeah. And so for like a month, I wrote some material and I performed every night. Most of it was just awful, like the horrible environment that I'm talking about. And so I go to Stand Up New York and I do great. I'm really happy with the show. I needed every ounce of experience of all of those horrible sets for that whole month.
Perform there.
Like I used I wrung every shitty set, like every piece of wisdom, every adjustment that I would take notes after the set into the set at Stand Up New York, and it paid off, and it was fine. But here's something that really got to me. So there was a kid basically who went on after me at Stand Up New York, and he was doing his tune-up set, or one of his many tune-up sets, to debut on The Tonight Show the following week.
Oh, wow.
So I am hugely cynical about stand-up comedy. I'm like, most comedians suck. That guy's a hack, whatever. I thought this kid was amazing, and he crushed. But it's not that he crushed. I'm just like, Jesus, that's clever. Jesus, that's clever. What an ending. Wow. I felt like this guy really showed me what a spit shine is for polishing a set, and I felt like I learned a lot from it. And then I watched his Tonight Show debut. I'm like, I want to see this happen. This is going to be a thing. And it was just okay. If you watched it, you say, yeah, that guy's funny, but it is not indicative of
what you saw in the club,
what I saw before. And part of that is like the you talk about the environment and the confidence. It's just like auditioning for the Tonight Show. Oh my God, I'm so nervous. What's going to happen? Doing the Tonight Show, you're really nervous. But doing a warm-up set a tune-up set where you've already got the Tonight Show, you're going to be overflowing with confidence. Like, what does this crowd have over you? They have nothing over you. So he was supremely confident. His timing was great. And but it really like sort of haunted me that like this wasn't. But even if he did better, I just don't feel like debuts on the Tonight Show or debuts on any late night talk show. No one cares anymore. Like it's not the thing that it.
That's just it. I mean, like they I think the only way they're relevant now is if they cut up the show the next day and put it on YouTube. You know, like. Yeah. Like I think that's
or Instagram or whatever.
Live. What's that?
It's something like Instagram where it's like short. You know, you can't put a long comedic set in front of people and keep their attention anymore. You kind of have to get like, you know, the quick jokes, put them up there, and then that kind of hooks them. You know, like that Bo Burnham kid.
Yeah.
Very, very clever, very smart, but also like a great example. I personally think of. You know, catering to a younger generation.
On the internet for sure. Like,
yeah.
He really understands the internet and marketing and how to reach his audience. And I mean, say what you will about Dane Cook, but you know, in the age of MySpace, he figured out internet promoting before.
Oh yeah.
It died down now, but you really got to tip your hat to what he was doing when the internet was young in getting people to listen to his act.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I also think they're very much the voice of their generation that they're representing as well. I feel like, you know, Dimitri Martin from, you know, a decade or two ago is just Bo Burnham now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
But I'll just tell this quickly. So I was performing all the time, and then there was the National College Comedy Competition by CERTS, and they came to our school, and I was the winner from Michigan, and then I was the national representative, and I went. They picked 3 to go down to Daytona, and Jerry Seinfeld was the judge, and he picked me, and I was the funniest college student in America ages ago.
Jerry picked you?
Jerry Seinfeld picked me, and
wow! Congrats, man, that's awesome.
But here's the thing. So Michigan was not on spring break. Ohio State and Michigan State were on spring break. Michigan's spring break did not coincide with all these other schools that were rivals of Michigan. So it's on YouTube. If you do like Jerry Seinfeld, Tom Franck, bad luck intro, I posted Seinfeld's introduction to me, where it's just like, it's this huge, you know, auditorium and the crowd's going crazy. And he's like, yeah, our next student is our final comedian is a junior. He's from a university, and the crowd's going, yeah. He says, I'm not going to say where he's from. He goes, no, he's from the University of Michigan. Everyone, boo, boo. Seinfeld did not understand college rivalries at all, but I had way more experience than the other 2 guys I was competing against.
Oh, good.
And I won, and it was a big deal. But at that club that I was telling you about, so you had Tim Herod. You had John Heffron started off there, who won Last Comic Standing season 2 ahead of Gary Goldman and Alonzo Bowden. You know, he became a big touring comedian. There's Eric Chapnella was there, a big screenwriter. Peter Berman was there, but there was one person who really did explode into superstardom more than anyone else, and that was one of the waitresses, who was Lucy Liu.
Oh wow!
He used popcorn all the time, you know.
Oh wow!
And then I remember, you know, John Heffron calling me up. He goes, "Yeah, watch Ally McBeal. Lucy's on there." And sure enough, she was. She took off.
No kidding.
There was something going on at that club.
Something in the water.
Awesome. That's great. So, and then like, how did you end up making a comic now? Like, you sounds like you have a good stand-up career going. Where you're actually.
It was okay, but like moving to LA is brutal, you know. And LA, you know, I came from this great comedy environment to a really bad comedy environment where there's millions of comedians here. Everyone.
Yeah, like I heard Boston's way better.
Boston was better, but it's sort of like you don't, when you're outside of New York or Los Angeles, you don't feel connected. Like you feel like even if you have a great set, it's like the tree that falls in the forest. If there's no agents there, did anyone hear it?
Yeah, right.
You know, and it can feel so like nothing's going on here. And then in Los Angeles, you just feel invisible because there's a million comedians. The audiences are just dead. They're just blasé. No matter who's performing, you're going on, what the hell? I mean, forget me. Look at the big names, the great comedians who are performing, and you're just whatever. So it's really tough. So I got into like during the day, like what am I going to do here? I got into screenwriting, and I sold a couple of screenplays.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and it was like, oh wow, this is
anything that got produced, or
no, they didn't.
Okay.
Which is the way that most things happen. I sold a teen comedy to Miramax, and then this was after Clueless. So like, hey, the teen. It was before the teen comedy explosion of the '90s reached full effect.
American Pie and all that stuff.
It was before. I sold it before American Pie was released, but it had been sold at that point. Okay. But just the idea in the '90s, spec scripts were a thing. Like studios buying original screenplays from known and even unknown writers. That was a big thing in the '90s that just is not happening anymore.
Yeah, no,
well, that's now passed through the blacklist, right? Like if you have a spec, it's got to go through the blacklist to get notoriety.
I mean, just look at how.
But look what they make. They just everything's a remake.
Existing properties,
everything's a remake or an IP or a superhero movie now. That's what I meant earlier when I said like how things aren't the same, like movies don't have the power they used to, and TV shows and all that stuff,
Well, I think there's a market for it, and I think that, like you look at Top Gun sequel, right? Like Top Gun was a movie from decades ago, but in the climate of today's movie-going experience, it's not unlike anything that's out there now.
Right.
And I think it felt fresh again, and I think that's part of why it was so popular.
Well, unlike 10 years ago, you can watch Top Gun from your TV in 10 seconds if you want to. I think older content doesn't have the stigma. There's so much content now that I could show you two movies, one that was released today and one that came out from 10 years ago, and you couldn't tell which was which. You might, there's so many of them, it's so like something that's made 10 years ago, why not watch it now? It doesn't have the stigma. And also, like, period pieces are more of a thing, not old period pieces, but like people want stories to take place before cell phones because cell phones kill drama. If you can just text someone in danger, don't go here, So a movie like Pete's Dragon, okay, we're remaking Pete's Dragon, and it's set in the 80s. Why does this need to be set in the 80s? Shouldn't everything be set now? Because at the end, when all these dragons are flying by, if everyone is able to take pictures of it with their phone, it ruins the mythology of it. Like,
that's
gone.
true.
So, period pieces are a thing, but spec scripts used to be a thing, and going through the development process of either writing for film, or, aspiring to be a film writer, or in TV, there are so many notes. You don't know what you agree with, what you don't agree with. Like, wow, I'm getting paid a lot of money. How do I make these notes work? Even if I disagree with them. And you go through it and you think like, oh, wow, okay, so if I do this, this will get it made. And it doesn't. It doesn't get made anyway. I had a script that John Woo liked and he was going to produce, and Michelle Yeoh was attached to it.
Oh, wow.
And it fell apart, And it fell apart for dumb reasons, because MGM was in trouble because of Rollerball and Heart's War, which were really expensive movies and flops. And then the third flop that they had was another really expensive movie called Wind Talkers, which John was directing. And that made MGM mad. And they said, this isn't going forward.
We're not in the John Woo business
anymore.
But
I mean, it was crushing, to
be so close.
To feel, I felt cool. Like, I've got Michelle Yeoh in my movie. John Woo likes my stuff.
And now she's in like one of the best movies of the year this year, right?
Yeah, right.
But even before that, she was in Crouching Tiger.
Crouching Tiger,
yeah.
And even the second one that
she was in the Bond movie at the time too. Around
that's right.
She was in that. She was in the 200 million plus movie. So she's still happening, and God bless her. I met her once. She was nice, but it would have been great. But you just feel, related to comedy, all of show business, you just feel like you have no control over anything. And no control professionally, no control creatively, and it's frustrating. So at some point, God, what was it? Okay, so I wrote, Judd Winnick,
did Green Lantern, was on the Real World for a while.
Yeah. But he if you look at Green Lantern 143, I went to school with Judd. At Michigan, he used to see me do comedy. In Green Lantern 143, he inserted me. I am the most popular comedian in the DC universe.
Oh, that's great.
Raven kidnaps me.
I read all those issues, but I don't remember. I'd have to go back. And
if you check out 143, huh?
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm in there, and there's like a marquee. It says Tom Franck, star of the Tom Show, but it's split so that I can't sue. That's
great.
He wrote a TV series for Cartoon Network called The Life and Times of Juniper Lee, and he had me write an episode of that, and it was great. And from that, I wound up getting a meeting with someone at Disney, maybe, and they wanted me to come up with an idea. And I'm like, okay, I want to do a robot show. So I sort of roughly came up with this idea. It was very different, but it didn't happen. Like, I got a quick no. That's one of the painful things in show business, is just these no's that take forever and you don't know what's going on. But just the idea of having complete control over something, having every decision. So with my comic, I do everything. I write it, I draw it, I color it, I letter it, I pay for it,
and you have complete control.
Yes. And I like that, and I realize, like,
I get that.
I don't have a ton of experience doing it. I'm happy to make mistakes.
That's the thing. Like, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, you just learn.
And I think that's the primary point for a lot of people who like to self-publish and are not doing it because just like a publication won't pick them up. Like, I genuinely prefer to self-publish for that reason. The control's in your hands.
Do you guys agree? Best robot show, Small Wonder.
I like the pilot Badlands 2005, where Miguel Ferreira was a robot sidekick to another cop. I think it was Chad Michael Vincent, maybe.
What was it? Holmes and Yo-Yo? That was another top buddy robot show. I think from the 70s.
Oh my God.
Almost Human.
Almost Human.
Well, I mean, to get back to my comic book, it's just like, I feel that we are all, like, if I had to use a metaphor for human beings, we are all stoves with exactly two burners, one front burner and one back burner. And that is it. Okay. You can have as many pots and pans as you want, but you only have one burner. One burner for each. Front burner and a back burner. The front burner should be the thing that makes you money. The back burner should be a thing that brings you joy. Okay. I disagree with the idea of side hustles. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? How can you not like side hustles? Because by definition, the point of side hustles is not to bring you joy. It's to help you make more money. And if both things are just there to make you money, that's a recipe for misery, because you're going to be burned out and you're not adding enough joy to the recipe of your life. So people, all sorts of creative people. People are always saying, how should I decide what should be on my back burner? Like, what is the thing that is right for me? Okay. And I have a really simple answer that a lot of people don't like. The simple answer is, you've picked the right thing if you are willing to make what I call the zero success contract for excellence. Meaning that if I make zero money from this, if I have zero success from this, if no one watches it if no one pays attention to me at all, am I still willing, because it brings me so much joy, to relentlessly try and make it as excellent as possible? And if the answer is yes, that's what you should do, because you don't want to get burned out. Like, oh, this thing didn't happen. My crowdfunding didn't work. I didn't get this many followers. These views didn't happen, or whatever. I'm going to give up on this. Well, you shouldn't have started it if that's why you were doing it. So with me doing my comic, I am completely happy doing my front burner is overcooking my soul. Yeah. That's why you need joy in your back burner. I have a very complicated job, that I am able to handle. And, there's certain, we don't want to be babies either, like your work is work, it doesn't need to always be roses, and dealing with tough people makes you stronger for things, it's valuable experience that you can mine later. So with Jumbo Titan X, my comic, a big part of your show, even today, is the really wise advice and theories that you present for crowdfunding. Like, you guys have a really evolved sense for that, and a lot of experience, but like, I don't have time to nurse a crowdfunding campaign. I just want to make my comic and pay, hey, let's give a plug for Comics Wellspring. I enjoyed working with them. They were great.
Love those guys.
They're awesome. They're my go-to printer when I print stuff outside of the Alterna books that I do. They definitely do a great job. I made Jumbo Titan X for them, and they printed it up. And do you have any other pages in there? Do you have any of the ads? Does this have? Let me see. Let me see.
Well, I gave you copies at Wicked Comic Con, right?
Yeah, I have copies. I didn't bring.
Okay.
Unfortunately, do you have anything digital online somewhere, like that we could bring up?
Well, one thing I wanted to say in there,
or even on your computer, I can share the screen there if you have something.
I was posting. I did a mock-up here of the. I did an ad, and I was mimicking old Japanese toy ads from the 70s.
Okay.
And I had a kid in a turtleneck, and I said, and I had some of the text in Japanese, and I said, "Vinyl toy coming." Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, can you see this?
All right, yeah, let me see.
So this was like,
cool.
The background is different.
I like that. Yeah, it does look like one of those old ads.
Cool.
It was really colorful, but...
So are you actually making a vinyl toy to go with it?
There we go.
Oh, look at that. Awesome.
Oh, cool.
Did you have that 3D printed?
I learned 3D print. I learned 3D modeling myself. Okay. I learned Tinkercad and some Fusion 360. I taught myself, and I got a 3D printer and I printed that up.
Awesome,
I'm close, I think, to closing a deal with the mold maker. I'm using Mile High soft vinyl, Sahubi, out of Denver, and they're a great operation. But I'm pretty sure, fingers crossed, I've got a quote. I'm ready to engage him to make molds and have him make the vinyl toy.
That's awesome, dude. I'm actually looking into, I had the 3D models done for my Mighty Mascots comic. I'm looking to do like those, I think they call them Keshi figures, the old, remember the old muscle figures in the
the Muscle Men.
Yeah, like they're all the hard pink, maybe about 2 inches tall.
Have you guys been following Nick Pitara's Axe Wielder John?
No.
He had a crowdfunding campaign that made like $200,000.
Oh wow!
He really took off.
Which platform was it on? Kickstarter?
Kickstarter, I think. That sounds vaguely familiar.
I don't remember. It was a
I'll have to look it up. Axe Wielder John.
Axe Wielder John by Nick Pitara, and but all of a sudden, there was this rapper, Michael Posner, and he was on a podcast, and he was talking, we're talking about show business and exposure, and he was talking about the sort of the frustrations of dealing with record labels.
Okay.
And he said, labels are really good at pouring gasoline on a fire. What they are not good at is starting a fire, and because they don't care. So it's basically up to all of us, all individual creators, musicians, comic book people, to figure out how do you start a fire? How do you get people interested?
Looks like it was a Zoop campaign.
But he started talking about actually, he was just a genius at social media, and he was posting work in progress. And I don't know how it started, but he started to get people doing Axe Wielder John fan art. And it took off. All of a sudden, all these huge artists were doing Axe Wielder John fan art. And it just exploded. And then his Zoop went live, and he just raked it in. But that is like the most anticipated creator-owned comic that's come out for a while. And there's a lot of lessons. And Nick Pitara, always a great hustler. He's played Sketch Fighter, my show, which we haven't talked about.
Oh yeah. Johnny, did you ever do that in Boston Comic Con?
No.
Sketch
What's
Fighter?
that? Sketch Fighter? No, it sounds a little kind of adjacent to Sketch Off.
A little bit.
It was like what was it? C2E2. God, so many different parts of my life. So there was a comic book store in Los Angeles called Meltdown.
I've heard of that.
Yep.
And I was the first customer in there. Gaston Dominguez was the owner. And I went to do a horrible comedy show at the Sunset Grill. It was like above the Sunset Grill. It was one of those things that I'm talking about where it was just other comedians, and it was
it's nothing going on.
It was nothing. But it was right near Meltdown. So I go to see Gaston after the show, catch up, and all that, and explain to him what I was doing. Yeah, they had some dumb show over there. And then that Monday, and I still have the email, he sends to all the people working at Meltdown, we got to start to do comedy at Meltdown. And so I started a show there, but it wasn't my show. My show was called Comics and Comics. And,
I remember that. Yeah.
So, that's a whole adventure and story. But there was a woman, Linda Pine, and she started booking a show there, which they just called Comedy Meltdown. Now, Comedy Meltdown really took off. Whatever marketing Linda Pine was doing or for Comedy Meltdown, hats off to her. And
they had a 3-season show with Jonah Ray and Kumail Nanjiani, if I remember correctly.
Linda Pine sort of bowed out, and Chris Hardwick bought the space.
That's right.
And then brought in Jonah Ray and Kumail to take it over. So that kind of exploded. I kind of got phased out. No, good for them. Chris Hardwick owned the space. It's his. So I took Comics and Comics. I'm talking about how rough Los Angeles is, comedy. If you go outside, it's pretty good. So there was a comic book store in Ventura called Hypno Comics, which I believe is still there, although the owners moved to Vegas, George Chase. But I started doing, getting comedians. When I was at Meltdown, it was all geek comedy, and I met a lot of people who would ultimately be in my troupe from there. And it's a whole different experience, and it's good for a comedian to actually run a show because you're on the other end of it, and you've got people asking you for stage time. Yeah. And you're like, okay, I got to be sympathetic for this. I got to give these people a shot. And, you're looking at tapes, and you realize I don't know everyone who's funny. So I started, it was just 5 comedians on a show, but then I had an open mic, which I called Crisis on Infinite Comics and Comics, where I'd see 25 shows because there were so many comedians who wanted, and I made a lot of friends from that.
Yeah,
it was great. But I would do that at different conventions. I'm like, let me bring this to conventions since we're all geek anyway. And I brought it to C2E2, and I'm like, look, if we're coming out to Chicago for this show, for this panel, on your big stage, can I do the show twice? Can I do have one on Friday, one on Saturday or something? And they said, no, we really don't like you to repeat panels. Okay. But if you want to come up with something else, we can. So I'm like, okay. So I was thinking like win, lose, or draw Pictionary. And I've always had this idea of taking comedians, take a comedian, pair them up with an artist, and have them guess what each other is drawing. So, you know, the point of the artists are to be like Iron Chefs. The point of the comedians is to sort of be like the Hollywood squares of
right, like and throw one-liners out at the
and it was great.
Drawn.
It was an absolute smash hit. But Nick Pitara did that. I did it at the Boston Comic Con. You helped me out. You were the
I was like, I messed up one of the segments. I remember.
Yes. But like that was a big thing, and you know we're talking about show business and things stalling out. Like I had a bunch of interest in that from production companies, and one person like, yeah, we want to do this, and they got a host, and then they took it to their legal.
I didn't know that.
They took it to their legal department. This is kind of still going on, and the legal department's like, yeah, I don't know about this. All these IPs, like,
you
know,
like that kind of stuff. Okay,
like legally. They weren't, it was kind of on shaky ground. It's my understanding that it should be safe. Like with all these cosplay TV shows, it's my understanding, like if you have someone take a trash can lid and turn it into Captain America's shield and show it on TV, that's allowed because it's homemade. But if part of the costume involves using a store-bought Captain America shield, that's copyright infringement, you know? So
and how does it work with drawing? Like
I mean, everything's being drawn from imagination, so it should be okay. But they kind of bowed out. Look, maybe I'll get a call tomorrow saying, "Yeah, we want to move forward on it," but it's really frustrating. But that's another reason why doing a comic book was so exciting to me. You know?
Right. You can't get full control of it. So tell it. So so like we talked about the comic a little bit. Like, what's the premise of it? Like,
I was saying, what's the elevator pitch on this one?
Well, you know, it's called Jumbo Titan X, and
I've read the preview, and then I think you gave me number 1. I read both.
Well, so I did number 1, and then the people at the Wicked Comic Con said, "Hey, do you want to print up thousands of them?" And I'm like, "I don't have issue 2 done, so what are they going to come to my table for?" So I said, "Hey, you know what? I can do a preview of issue 2. So I busted my ass to get 11 pages done for a preview of issue 2. I printed up 2,000 of them, gave them away at the Wicked Comic Con, and then had people come to my table to get issue 1. So, and that worked out. A bunch of people sold a bunch of issues.
I saw those everywhere that weekend, and that was a great show too.
Great show.
So, you know, it starts off with aliens landing on Earth and going to a military facility, and we see what they're doing is kind of a technology survey, kind of like, what is it, Star Trek 6, where the Vulcans decide to, or watching, and
decide if humans are worthy
are ready for interaction.
Yes,
by surveying, like when they invent warp drive, like, okay, you guys are ready.
Yeah.
So this is just sort of a survey to see where Earth is at, and they figure like from this military facility, we'll be able to extrapolate where Earth is at this point. And during the survey, they're detected, and they shouldn't be detected because their stealth equipment should be better than Earth's, and their weapons don't work. And Earth is just way more advanced than they think Earth should be at this point, at this military facility. So they try to get back to their robot to leave, but they've been detected, and they start to get captured. So they try and blow up their robot to self-destruct it, so Earth doesn't have this technology that they brought with them that they think Earth can't handle, but Earth is doing way better than they thought. But Earth uses this freeze foam, which is some new weird weapon, and they manage to stop it from self-destructing. So they've got a majority of this robot carcass left that they are able to analyze. And from that, they figure it out, and they're able to improve upon it and build their own giant robot. So
cool.
The thing I liked about it is it's comfort food, right? So like when I was reading it, I was like, I felt like I was watching something on Force 5. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the
kudos to that.
is very important to me. The guy that I haven't mentioned, there probably should be two. Go Nagai created a lot of these robot shows from the 70s. He started, before Mazinger Z, he did the manga of Devilman, but he had hits with Cutie Honey, Shameless School, Mao Dante, and then his giant breakthrough was Mazinger Z.
Yeah.
But then after that, Get a Robo G, Great Mazinger, all super robots come from him.
Yeah.
And then 1979, 1980, you get Gundam. And it sort of changes the paradigm from super robots to mechs, which are just mass-produced machines that are not particularly special, that you can replace.
Right. They all look the same kind of.
Robotech, Macross.
Yeah. So that's 80s. That's the next wave after that. So I'm definitely influenced by the Go Nagai stuff from the 70s.
Yeah,
so,
I like the unique robot, like the one, like there's only one of the robots fighting, massive aliens and things like that.
But part of the idea of this, we're talking about advances in the robot genre. Like when I would watch Mazinger Z or any of these super robot shows, there were two things that I cared about. What were the new weapons that were going to come out? And you were a big fan of Guy King. Guy King, every week there was a miracle drill. There's exactly. Axe, there's Mask Open. Yeah. So advancing, the robots themselves. And the other thing is how cool were the enemy robots? Yes. And I felt, because it's just like, oh, that's a lame design. But if they're fighting cool stuff week after week,
that was the thing. Yeah,
that matters to me.
Yeah.
So I want to. So those were two things that I was thinking about. But I want the idea of an arms race in robots excites me, but I also want it to be relatable. I want people to feel like who are still on Windows 7 to relate to some robot pilot who's getting pounded because the new version is beating him up.
Right. Yeah. So, like you wanted to add like that drama, like that the stakes. You wanted to add stakes to it.
Obsolescence is going to be a thing in like it starts off where the aliens are obsolete and they don't even know it,
Right. I like that angle though.
It's different, because
usually the aliens are always more advanced than Earth, So
exactly.
There's a nice twist on that.
Even in Robotech, where they retrofit the SDF-1, they don't fully understand it.
Right. They don't know how to lock the potential of it. Yeah.
That's not the case here. They've improved. They've studied the carcass. They're like, yeah, we can do better. But as I say, a lot of robot building is about engineering. What you need to make engines these shapes. And the line that I use is: imagine if before Thomas Edison did all of his hundreds of experiments testing filaments, if you just whispered in his ear and said tungsten. So
yeah, right.
That's what has happened in the first issue of this.
I like it. What's your plans for the series overall? Are you going to keep going? Do you have an end, or do you have?
I love this. I see this wave like being 12 issues, and I've got a lot of it mapped out. And here, we're talking about creative control. The 12th issue, I want to be completely silent, no words at all, and I want every page to be a fold-out double page. So,
wow! So you have it that far planned out.
Awesome.
Yes. So I have that issue in my mind so freaking clearly. I'm so excited to do so much drawing that I'm good enough to live up to my idea of how the issue should be. So that's what I have in mind for issue 12. I can go way beyond that, but I want to just buckle down and go through this. So people are talking about Go Nagai in the comments there.
Yeah. I was.
To get back to my toy, the rarest toy in the world, Garada K7, which I did win in 2006. In 2018, Go Nagai came to Anime Expo, and I had a friend who was trying to smooth talk him. So he had me bring a lot of my toy collection into his office for this big, schmoozing meeting with Go Nagai.
Yeah.
And I had him sign the foot of my Garada K7.
Oh, nice.
But my profile pic on my Instagram is me. I mean, I think the first picture I posted is me with Go Nagai. So
that's awesome.
Cool.
How was he as a person? Is he like?
He's very quiet. His English isn't good. His wife's is excellent. So it meant a lot to me to be able to explain to him how much his work meant to me. And I didn't, I said a lot more than that. Why? Like the transition from Mazinger Z to Great Mazinger really hits hard for me. And I was I talked to him about that. But
awesome.
He was super nice. And well, here's the thing. Like, okay, I've got
a great name. Go Nagai. I love that.
I've got these rare toys, right? And he's one of the only guys in the world. I don't know if he's going to walk into this room full of toys of his property that are super rare and go, ho hum, you've got Garada K7. I've got 5 at home.
Yeah, right. Like it doesn't faze him. Yeah,
it's his character, So it turns out that the opposite was true. He came. I said, "What is your toy collection like?" And he said, "I was so focused on creating manga at the time that I didn't care about the toys or collect them at all, and I deeply regret it."
Oh, interesting.
That moved me, and it's like toy collectors out there appreciate, what you've got, because it is important at the end of the day. And I want to ask you guys: have you watched Bakuman, the anime, or read the manga of Bakuman? It's free on Tubi. It's about these teenagers trying to become manga artists. And it is insanely good. It is so
it, where is it? Where can I see it?
Tubi.
It's on Tubi? Okay.
It's on Tubi for free. There's 75 episodes, and all of the struggles about creating comics are related to manga in this.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Bakuman. Okay.
They're in like junior high, and it's the artist and the writer teaming up. So it's not like one creator. So all of the discussions between artists and writers are covered in the 75 episodes. Really? That dynamic.
I'm surprised. I'm shocked. I've never heard of. I mean, I've heard the title, but no one ever told me what it was.
It is so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've watched it twice. I want to watch it again.
It's that good.
This other kid, who's like they're trying to be these wonder kids, right? And their thunder gets completely stolen by this genius named Eiji Nizuma, and he's really weird. And comic creators have to deal with genius all the time. This kid is a manga making machine. He is a genius, and the assumption is, oh, this is going to be an evil kid who they have to pass. This is going to be Johnny Lawrence in, yes, Bakuman is great. Eiji Nizuma is one of the best characters of all time. He's super nice. Ultimately, the show is about him and his,
struggle to make
well, not his struggle, how effortless it all is for him.
Oh, okay.
You hear comic creators like Jeff Johnson, who did Wonder Man, who was one of the guys from Drink and Draw, Dave Johnson and Dan Panosian. He talks about like doing some work and being in a room with Bill Sienkiewicz and just watching him draw. You're just like, what the hell is with this genius? And here's someone who's like just a draw. Jeff Johnson is a drawing machine, but comic book artists have to deal with freakish geniuses all the time. They're out there right now.
Go to any convention, you'll see. Have
you seen them?
True.
What do you guys think of Trad Moore, who did Luther Strode and?
Never met him, but I liked it. I like Luther Strode's a great book. I love the idea behind that. Have you read that one, Johnny?
No, I'm not familiar.
So it's like if someone, the old Charles Atlas ads from comic books. So it's what if someone gave like there's actually a book on how to become the final product of a Charles Atlas ad, and this kid gets this book and he just becomes like a violent, It's just violence and gore. It's awesome. It's
awesome.
He's insane. He's right-handed, right? But he draws with his left hand, and he mostly uses a brush for inking, and he holds it like this. And he's got this giant callus on his pinky. Like, do Tradmore hand. Do a Google search for it, and you'll see photos of it. And he has unbelievable control.
Huh.
Forget like drawing. There was a video of him. He took it down, and it was like, here, hold on.
I feel like that's how I drive. I drive with these two fingers, and I have the most control of the wheel.
He would just say it was a game like this. He would say, "Here are two lines, and you draw even lines in between." So you go like this,
and
then he would go like this, and then he would do it, and they would be perfectly straight, perfectly centered, until it was just like a sea of lead or ink. It was freakish. Like, forget like, oh wow, the draftsmanship on this. It's just like the motor control that he has is insane. So he reminds me of AJ Nizuma in Bakuman. But that's part of the excitement of comic creating, is like there's all of these super geniuses in the field. There's freakishly good art.
And I like too that, like you said too, about it's like how it's all on us to make it. So it's like it's almost like pockets. We're all trying to do the same thing, but we're also not really competing with each other, because we're competing with ourselves in a lot of ways.
We're kind of just all in our own lane.
Yeah.
There's very little crossover.
But you are your own worst enemy, or your biggest fan, I guess. So it's like you control everything that's kind of happening around you as far as creating.
With comics are a weird thing. There's so many great ones out there. Even if you don't think the writing is very good, like there's a lot of just, wow, this is visually amazing, and
right, yeah,
good. But it's really easy to, to me, this is a clear distinction where you're going to be as an artist if you redraw issue 1 5 times versus you let it exist as it is and do issue 5. You're going to learn way more by just going through the whole process.
Yeah.
On not redoing the process over and over again. So
I was just looking up Tradmore, and I knew his artwork was familiar. He did Silver Surfer Black.
Yeah.
And that was a very unique art style for Silver Surfer. Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. He's great. I like the many deaths of Layla Starr, by Philip Andrade. I think that's going to win the Eisner this year in terms of.
Haven't read it.
You've had guests on, and you talk about art, and you talk about some people are really like creating art, but they like doing covers or pinups, and sequential stuff really gives them a headache. That's something that I hear a lot. Yeah. I really love sequentials. Like it's
like really creating that ultimate storyboard, basically.
Yeah, that's where the rubber hits the road, is with sequentials and storytelling, and the.
It's also the pivotal part of the comic. Like if you can't get if that doesn't work, the comic doesn't work. You know what I mean?
I think we've mentioned even before on the show in the past, is like, how many times have you seen a comic book with a really banging cover, and then you open it up and the artwork inside doesn't match what's in the inside,
Yeah.
It's hard. When you create everything, as the writer and the artist, it's interesting. I think it's a good thing in that I definitely do it Marvel style, where I've kind of got the words, and then I know what the characters are kind of saying, but then I'll draw it, and Layla Starr is fantastic. Yeah,
I'll have to look that up. Who puts that out? Layla Starr.
Boom, maybe.
Is it a Boom Studios? Yeah. Okay.
Philip Andrade. He's really inventive panel work on that. The other one I liked is
they're like JH. You have JH Williams has some amazing panels.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I guess he doesn't do a lot of thumbnails. I think he just starts on finished pages and works from one end to the other.
That's crazy. Like, have you picked up his Echo Lands from Image?
I've not bought them. I did flip through them.
Yeah, those are crazy. I mean, like, amazing.
What was the last Sandman thing he did was insane.
Yeah, the Overture. Oh my god,
Overture.
And I still like pull out his. I have all his Batwoman issues, and I still pull those out and just look at the way he designs a page. It's amazing.
I mean, that's I love that, and I feel like that really connected with me with Frank Miller when he was doing Daredevil.
Yeah. Like,
this wasn't the slickest guy out there, but the storytelling in those fights, and I think he learned a lot from, I think he picked up a lot from Dashiell Hammett, who I know he liked, the detective writer, because that whole Daredevil 181, when you're in, it seems so obvious at the time, but it seems so obvious now. I don't think it felt that way at the time. Of the whole thing is from Bullseye's point of view inside his head. And I really like fighting in comic books where you've got thought bubbles and you're hearing people analyze the fight as it's happening. And Frank Miller was so good at that. Like, look at Dark Knight 2.
No one does that anymore, though.
When he's fighting the mutant leader.
Well, there's no action in books anymore, but it's like they don't.
I think the only character that's always like you can almost guaranteed is Spider-Man, right? Because even just as he's quipping, like more often than not, what goes synonymously with the characters is inner monologue.
Yeah, and I love that. I miss that. I miss that in comics, you know.
Yeah, but I'm definitely trying to do that in my comic.
My buddy here, Dan Pleagle, he said Ultra Mega is thumbs up. I haven't read that book, but that's a giant robot one. Have you read that one, Tom?
It was James Herron.
Did you like that? Would you recommend it?
I haven't read the third. I think there's 3 parts. I read the first 2. It was great.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the real deal. He's another genius who makes it seem easy. His motion that he gets from his brushes is really, I think it's very influential. I think a lot of people look to James Herron for that sort of speed.
I look at the covers; they look nice. Yeah, I'll definitely check that one out. All right, I'm gonna start wrapping this up. We've been going for almost 2 hours.
We could talk all night, literally.
We're literally at 1 hour and 50 minutes, which is nuts.
So
for us.
I'll show you a little preview.
Yeah. So we were gonna bring it. We were kind of bring it full circle to.
So I'm doing all of issue 2 on my iPad. I know you were. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the cover. Let me see.
Oh, cool.
Dude, I like it.
So let's see. Is that back? Okay. So this is page 1, and this is sort of like a Jack Kirby. This is what happened last issue. This is where we are. And this was a lot in the preview of the Wicked Comic-Con. And that's
I recognize some of it. I love that you embrace the robot action. You need it with giant robot books,
And then this is a 2-page spread.
Yeah, I like that one. That's where it kind of ends, right? In the preview, I think.
A little bit. Yeah. So then this is the next page, and the kid in the control booth who wants to pilot, he notices that Jumbo Titan X's weapons are much better than the alien robots, which confuses him. So he sort of gets on the horn. This is the new stuff, and tells him, like, stop making this a hand-to-hand melee fight. Back off and use your weapons. Fight from a distance. So he takes that advice, and then he blasts him, and then he wins, and then he finds out that the aliens from the first issue haven't been killed, they're captured. So he gives them back, thinking like, okay, if we release the aliens, are we going to avert war and, free them? Because he thought that they were killed. So he gives them back, and then he sees that the pilot is female in this, spoiler, and then they leave. And I'm trying to, like at the bottom here, like when he takes off, I really sort of amplified the ground plane going up to sort of try and get the motion like it's heavy, and then the ground actually lifts up from the weight of him taking off. So,
gotcha. Yep.
Cool.
And I like it, Tom. Looks good.
Lands back, and then they're having a conference at the headquarters, and they're deciding what to do. And this is sort of the roughest page. And he says, I'm not, we're not going to go to war, but we need this technology. So I want you to take 6 robots and take them back to Earth and capture Jumbo Titan X and bring it back here. And then the general will say, which 6 do you want me to take? And then we'll turn the page. And this is going to be a 3-page spread.
3-page?
That'll extend to the back cover.
Oh, okay.
Cool. That's a cool feature.
Where there's just hundreds of robots lined up for him to choose from.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I like that, dude. That's great. So that's the second issue, and you're working on that now?
That's the second issue that I'm still working on.
Awesome.
Now, we talked about Force 5.
Yeah, I want to see what you're going to premiere here.
So my favorite part of my favorite day of Force 5 was Tuesday, which was Star Avengers, which is Get a Robo G. Okay.
That was my third favorite, I think.
Okay. The 3 robots would come together. Yeah. Well, here.
Or you could do they could do 2 robots too, right? Like if they wanted.
No, it was always there were 3 vehicles.
Right, but couldn't just 2 go together if they wanted? If I remember right.
It was the 3 in different combinations.
Okay, so that's what it was. Yeah.
This was Getter Dragon. This was Getter Riger, and then there's Getter Poseidon, which is elsewhere.
Okay.
And then in the last episode, the Emperor Ramzorch says, how many Mecha Satans do we have left? And he says 6. And then they send one to fight him. And then he says, I want you to take the remaining 5 and combine them all into one all-powerful robot. So they can't believe this robot. And they so this is Getter Dragon. Okay. And this is sort of the Shine Spark version.
Okay.
He becomes energy, and then he'll fly, and then sort of go away, and the energy will continue and destroy everything. This is the ultimate weapon, but they could only use it once.
Okay.
So they use the Shine Spark on this Tota Mecha Satan, and they think they've destroyed it, but they haven't. And they wind up fighting it for the final 3 episodes. It's just like them against this thing. So I built it. Yeah, I designed it in 3D, and this was the last thing in the final 3 episodes of Force 5.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Wow, look at that. So you did that. Oh, you said you did that 3D model and print. Wow.
I modeled it, and then I printed all of the parts. But that's
Holy
the
crap.
Natai Hyakiju. But it's got horns that come out here and here. It's almost done, but it's not quite done.
Dude, I love it. That came out great.
And then this part comes out itself. So if I were to get the license for this, I'd probably sell this separately, and then the rest of it would be like a prize because it's just too massive.
That's really cool. What a cool design, because I haven't seen those 3 last episodes. Yeah. Or if I did, I don't remember them. But what a cool spider creature type thing, unique. You know?
Go Nagai's right-hand man was a guy named Ken Ishikawa, and he designed a lot of the Mazinger villains, the Kikaiju. Okay. But he was really in charge of Getter Robo and Getter Robo G, at least the manga. I think on the TV series, but I'm not positive.
Awesome. That's great stuff. Awesome, man.
That's pretty cool.
All right, so let's start wrapping up on. So Tom, where can people find you?
I'm at J Mashinder, which is Jumbo Mashinder, which are the toys that I collect. So it's JMACHINDER. That's me on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter.
Where are you most active? All of them, or?
I guess on Facebook.
Okay.
But, Instagram is where I'll post most of this stuff because it is visual.
Awesome. Yeah, I try to bounce between all 3, but I seem to be more on Twitter than anywhere else.
But people can go to Comics Wellspring store to pick up your books, though, right?
Yeah.
CWSbookstore.com.
Yeah, I'm going to share the link in the chat here so people have that. And I also put the link, if you're watching this later on the channel, like tomorrow or next week, it's in the description, so you can check out a link and check out Tom's book. Especially if you're a giant robot fan, I totally recommend it because it, like I said earlier, I read it and I enjoyed it. It has all those components you love about the giant robot genre, So check that out. Johnny, what do you got going on? Anything?
Okay, so I'm not going to see everybody until our next show, which is supposed to be the 27th or 28th. But I'm not even sure if I'll be there for that episode. So let me clue everybody in as to where I'll be, because from the 19th till the end of the month, I'm going to be gone.
So you're in San Diego.
On the 19th, I'll be at booth 2103 with Dial R Studios.
Okay.
So make sure if you're going to Comic-Con, swing by 2103. I'm going to have an exclusive limited printing of the San Diego Comic-Con cover of Surrounded by Death, collecting issues 1 and 2 into a perfect bound copy. Okay. Limited to 30 printed and 20 a piece. You're going to take a look at it and be like, I have to take that home with me.
I will do that. I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con on Friday. Oh,
awesome. Tom, definitely come on by and say hello. It'd be great to meet you in person.
I'll give you a copy of the comic.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah. That'd be great. Awesome. And then beyond that, so I'm also going to be paneling at Comic-Con.
Cool.
Yep, I got a panel for Small Print Comics 101. That's happening Friday, July 22nd from 4 to 5, and that's going to be in the Omni Grand Ballroom in the Omni Hotel. So it's not on site; it's an off-site panel at the Omni Hotel right across the street. Swing on by, come check out me, Jeff Ryder, Ginny Koch, Robert Roach, all hosted by Jeffrey Tuig. We're going to talk making comics, not unlike what we do here on a bi-weekly basis.
But in front of a live studio audience.
Exactly, in front of a live audience. And then I'm going to land on the 28th, the morning of the 28th. I'm going to get my shit together, and I'm going to head down to Terrificon.
You're fucking nuts, man.
And I'll see you guys over at Terrificon all weekend.
Yeah, so that's why. So we're going to be doing a show that night, Thursday night. So Johnny... It's a 50-50 shot whether Johnny will be on the episode or not.
I sense some caffeine in your future.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, if I made it through this show after Roger Waters last night, maybe I can make it through the 28th.
Awesome. Well, hopefully, I mean, hopefully sometimes the Wi-Fi in those hotels is shit. So
that's what I'm more worried about, is just getting a good solid connection.
Even if you have the time, you may not be able to join the show, but we'll try it.
In the least, I'll try to pop in, Keith.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get you in. That'd be great, but we'll see. I know we have everything working against us, But...
And last but not least, Plastic City this weekend.
Yes.
You'll find me there.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, man.
The madness starts in 2 days for me.
Yeah, it sure does.
But it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. Johnny, how many of our friends are gonna be there? I mean, it's gonna be a great show.
Much. It's gonna be great.
And I'm feeling the buzz. I think we're gonna be really busy. So
I hope so. Fingers crossed for a good show.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't doubt it though.
Yeah, and I really say to promote Plastic City. That was great. And then also I want to say. Sign up for the Mighty Mascots pre-launch that's happening right now, and you get your sticker, before purchase.
Take your time. If we've learned anything, it's take your time for the crowdfunding. Don't rush it.
Yes.
No rushing.
Yes, I gotta do that. I gotta slow myself down because I'm ready to go. I already want to start it. So, but Johnny's right. I have to make sure it's done. And then launching in the middle of the month is a good one that I hadn't even thought of. So
don't fall into the trap that I did. No, ready, shoot, aim, get it done, get it out there.
Release it when it feels right.
Fulfill the whole thing.
Yep, definitely. But all right, guys, we're gonna wrap up this episode of Indie Comics Relay. Tom, thanks for joining us. Everybody out there, check out Tom's comic. And then follow him on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram for more updates. Follow Johnny C's Crazy Con Adventures. And then also follow me at Reckless Gleason on Twitter as well. So, all right, everybody, we'll have a great week, and we will be back in 2 weeks with another live stream. And hopefully we'll see a bunch of you at Plastic City this weekend. All right, everybody, have a great night, and we will talk to you later. Read some comics. All right. Yes. Bye, everybody.